I'm sitting on this old beige couch, in an apartment that still smells like fresh paint and loneliness. It's been 6 months since he left. No ring on my finger. No photos on the walls. Just silence, and a voice in my head that replays that moment like it's stuck on loop. He didn't scream. He didn't argue. He just stood up and walked away. And somehow, that was worse. Because when someone yells, there's still a fire there, rage, hurt, something you can work with. But when they say nothing, when they just go, that's when you know you broke something that can't be fixed. I didn't cheat on him. I didn't hit him or curse him out or run off with someone else. I did something quieter, something pettier, and, in hindsight, maybe crueler. I said a sentence. One stupid sentence. And I said it loud enough for him to hear. I didn't know he was standing in the hallway. I didn't know he had paused outside the room with 2 mugs of tea in his hands, tea he made because he knew my sister was over and we'd probably stay up late gossiping like teenagers. I didn't know he was listening until it was too late. And the worst part? I meant it. In that moment, I meant every word I said. If I could go back, I wouldn't just take back the words, I'd take back the tone, the arrogance, the need to perform for someone else's approval. I thought I was just venting. I thought I was being funny. Clever. Honest. But all I did was gut the one person who had never made me question if I was loved. So here I am, 6 months later, still living with the echo of that night. Let me tell you what happened. And why I'd undo that one conversation if I could. David and I had been married for 7 years. 7 quiet, reliable, mostly uneventful years. He was the kind of man who brought flowers just because, who knew how I liked my coffee, who folded laundry without being asked. He never raised his voice. Never slammed a door. Never forgot a birthday. He was kind. Patient. Gentle. And safe. That was the word I always came back to when I thought about David. Safe. I met him a year after my life fell apart, after I found out my then fiancé, Jason, had cheated on me with his coworker. Jason was a storm, and I was addicted to the drama. He made me feel wild, spontaneous, and breathless, right up until he made me feel stupid, discarded, and broken. David was the complete opposite. He came in like a soft breeze, steady and calm. At first, I thought he was boring. But in my exhaustion, that boring started to feel like peace. Stability. Healing. So when he proposed after 2 years, I said yes. Not because I was swept off my feet, but because I was finally standing on solid ground. But lately, I'd started to feel that restlessness again. David had been pulling away. Working late. Distracted. Less affectionate. We hadn't been intimate in weeks, maybe months. When I'd ask how he was, he'd just smile and say, "I'm fine," and go back to staring at his phone or laptop. I felt invisible, undesired, unimportant. So one night, after a couple glasses of wine with my younger sister Lily, the bitterness in my chest finally spilled out. We were sitting on the couch, laughing about old flings, about how we used to imagine our dream guys as kids. And I said it. I actually said it. If I met David today, I wouldn't even give him a second glance. Lily blinked, caught off guard. I kept going. I mean, come on. He's sweet, yeah, but he's so predictable. There's no edge. No spark. I don't feel wanted anymore. Sometimes I wonder if I just settled because I was too tired to start over again. Lily tried to laugh it off, but even she looked a little uncomfortable. That's kind of harsh. I shrugged. I'm just being honest. I miss being seen, you know. What I didn't know what I couldn't have known, was that David was standing in the hallway, just outside the living room, holding 2 mugs of tea. And he had heard every word. I was still mid-sentence, some sarcastic remark about how I missed the days of being pursued, of butterflies and reckless passion, when I saw him. David. He stood in the doorway, still in his work clothes, creased slacks, that pale blue shirt I always told him made his eyes pop. In his hands were 2 mugs of tea, still steaming. His face was unreadable. My stomach dropped. The blood drained from my face. He didn't say a word at first. He just looked at me, or maybe through me. Then he quietly placed 1 mug on the side table next to Lily, the other on the coffee table. And with that same calm voice he always used, he said, "I was just coming to ask if you wanted tea." Lily froze. Her mouth slightly open, eyes flicking between us like a child caught in the middle of something she shouldn't see. I sat up straight, suddenly hyper-aware of everything, the wine, the dim lighting, the cruel intimacy of the moment. "David," I stammered, I didn't know you were home. I was just venting. It didn't mean anything, I swear." He nodded slowly, like he was giving me space to dig a deeper hole. Then he said, "You meant every word. And that's okay. I just wish I hadn't heard it." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse me of anything. He just stood there for a second, letting the words hang in the air like fog. Then he turned and walked to the bedroom. I sat there in silence, too stunned to speak, while Lily looked like she wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. A minute later, we heard the zipper of a suitcase. Drawers opening and closing. Hangers scraping metal rods. "David, please, can we just talk about this?" I called out, my voice shaking. No answer. He walked out of the bedroom with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Keys in one hand. Wallet in the other. "Where are you going?" I asked. "I don't know yet. Can't we just figure this out?" He looked at me, just one look. No anger. No spite. Just emptiness. And then he left. No slam of the door. No goodbye, just the soft click of the lock behind him. That night, I sat on the couch until the sun came up, phone in hand, heart pounding every time it buzzed. But it never lit up with his name. And it never would again. The first few days after David left felt like a blur, numb, quiet, suffocating. I kept checking my phone, expecting a message, a missed call, something. But the silence was absolute. It wasn't just that he left the apartment, it was like he erased himself from my entire world. I texted. I called. I even sent an email, something I hadn't done in years. All left unread. Unanswered. At first, I told myself he just needed space. A few days. Maybe a week. But then the days turned to weeks. And the silence stretched so long it began to hum in my ears. Some of our mutual friends started to distance themselves. One even texted me, "I'm not getting involved, Emily." That stung more than I expected. It meant they knew. He had told someone, or maybe he didn't have to. Maybe people just saw me for what I was in that moment, ungrateful. Cruel. Lily came over a few times, trying to keep me company, trying to make me laugh. But even she couldn't hold back her disappointment. One evening, as I sat in the kitchen pushing cold pasta around my plate, she said, "You were harsh, Em. You didn't have to say it like that." I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to scream that I didn't mean it. But the truth was, I had. I'd meant it in that moment, at least. I had reduced my marriage to a few careless words just to feel seen by someone else. Now, no one was seeing me at all. The emptiness of the apartment felt heavier without David's quiet routines. His coffee mug sat untouched. His side of the bed remained neatly made. His shoes, gone. His warmth, gone. And I started remembering the things I'd ignored. The way he held me when my mom died, sitting on the bathroom floor with me for hours while I sobbed. The way he always left little notes in my lunch when I had stressful work weeks. The way he planned anniversary dates with ridiculous detail, like it still mattered after all these years. I used to roll my eyes at all that. I used to think it was too much. Now I realize it was the kind of love most people beg for. And I started to wonder. Did I ever really see David? Or did I only see what he wasn't? It had been nearly 2 months. I had stopped expecting calls. Stopped checking my phone every morning with that twisted sense of hope. I was beginning to understand that silence wasn't just a pause, it was his answer. Then one afternoon, a white envelope appeared in my mailbox. No return address. No logo. Just my full name in handwriting I recognized instantly. David's. My heart jumped into my throat. I tore it open right there, standing in the hallway, hands trembling. It wasn't legal papers, not yet. It was a letter. A letter he had written. Dated just 3 days after the night he left. Never sent. Passed to me now through his lawyer, probably as part of the beginning steps of separation. But it wasn't cold or procedural. It was David. Honest. Thoughtful. Devastatingly gentle. Emily, I debated whether to send this. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. Maybe nothing I say will make a difference. But I guess I just want you to know that I saw it coming. Not the words, exactly, but the distance. You'd been pulling away. Laughing less. Looking at me like I wasn't quite enough anymore. I noticed. I just didn't want to believe it. So I booked something. A second honeymoon. I hadn't told you yet. I was going to surprise you next week. Nothing fancy, just the cabin in Vermont where we stayed after our wedding. I even found the same little bakery you loved. I wanted to remind you that we're still us. That you're still beautiful. That I still want you, even when you don't feel seen. But after that night, after hearing those words, if I met him today, I wouldn't give him a second glance. I realized something. I can't convince someone to love me the way I love them. And I shouldn't have to try. Asterisk. By the time I finished reading, my knees were shaking. I sank to the floor, clutching the paper like it was the only piece of him I had left. He had been trying to save us. The very night I stripped him down with my words, mocked him, belittled him, he had been planning to remind me how deeply he still loved me. I thought I was being clever. I thought I was speaking some raw, unfiltered truth. But now, I finally understood the real truth. I didn't just lose David that night. I threw him away. It's been a year now. I still live alone. In a smaller apartment, a quieter part of town. The kind of place where no one asks questions, and the neighbors nod politely but never knock. I started going to therapy after the letter. It took me weeks to even show up, and another few months to finally admit the truth out loud. I didn't cheat. I didn't hit him. But I broke his heart with words I didn't even mean, just to sound cool in front of my sister. And isn't that the ugliest kind of betrayal? The kind that doesn't come with bruises or police reports, but with a slow, surgical cruelty that cuts straight through someone's self-worth. I haven't dated much since. Not because I don't want to, but because I'm not ready. Not ready to open myself up. Not ready to risk hurting someone again. And maybe, if I'm being honest, because a part of me still wonders if I'll ever find someone like David. Someone who loved me fully, quietly, and without condition. Some nights, I lie awake wondering where he is now. If he's happy. If he found someone who makes him feel adored, admired, chosen. I hope he did. I really do. He deserved someone who looked at him like he was the prize. I was too blind to see that. People always talk about closure like it's something you can buy, like it arrives in an envelope or a final conversation. But for me, it came in a letter he never meant for me to read. A letter full of love, written after I'd already crushed his spirit. Sometimes I reread it. Not to torture myself, but to remember what I had, and what I lost because I thought honesty meant saying whatever popped into my head, no matter how sharp or selfish. If I could go back to that night, I wouldn't say anything clever or funny. I'd just tell my sister, you know what? I got lucky. I really did. But I can't go back. None of us can. So before you joke about your partner, before you say something careless to get a laugh, before you call them boring or safe or not enough, ask yourself, would I say this if they were standing behind me? Because one day, they just might be. Fade to black.